Hello and welcome to Experiencing Love. I'm your host, Philip Jocks, and I'm so glad that you're here. I feel a little silly trying out a new intro like that. And by new, I mean adding an extra 2 seconds to the start and end of this podcast. But I have to feel silly and I have to get used to doing these new things if I'm ever going to get out of the position that I'm in right now. If I ever want to grow, if I ever want to expand, there's going to be a lot more discomfort that I have to work through, a lot more discomfort that I have to experience. I often feel like I sound like a broken record because I say the same things over and over and over again. That being said, when I listen to some of my favorite content creators out there or my favorite influencers or public speakers, motivators, I notice that they all say the same things as well. Not to each other, but to themselves. They repeat the same things again and again and again because each time they say it, they're just reinforcing it for themselves and for the people that they're talking to. As far as they know, they need to hear that information again and again. They have to treat all of the content they put out, all of the events that they do, with the assumption that there's at least one new person in the audience. And if there's one new person in the audience, that means they know nothing about you and they're discovering everything you have to offer from the beginning, rather than go on some tangent that lasts a decade where if people jump in, they have no clue what's going on. They repeat their points, they repeat their most important pieces of information, their most important pieces of advice, so that they can make the greatest impact on the greatest number of people. I found that these same people do have more to share. They can go deeper, but they only go deeper with those who want to go deeper. They only share more with those who are ready to learn more. I guess that's how I'm treating this podcast and my content without even really realizing it, without even putting it into words until right now. Because I know I have so much more to share, but I also have to assume that each new person that comes across my content, or I guess I should say each person that comes across my content is new. They've never heard me before. They don't know what I'm like. They don't know what I talk about. I do have so much more to share, and I also know that it's more specific. It's more niche. If someone needs to hear those things, it's usually because they've sought that out from me or we're having a conversation. It's a lot more personal. But the key is that I know I have even more to offer. I say the same things over and over again because that's just the start. That's just an intro. If you don't believe in these things that I'm first starting to talk about, well, they're the foundation to everything else I talk about. If you don't connect with this now, chances are you may not connect as easily with the stuff I share later. It's not impossible. I've had many conversations with people who had a lot of resistance, felt a lot of doubt. Throughout the conversation, it's very possible, very easy sometimes to get through to someone because it's usually about getting through their resistance, getting through their defenses. They have walls up. So you get through their walls and you're able to connect. And that way, information like this actually does sink in. And that's a luxury that I don't have with everyone. The hundreds of people that come across my content, well, they may be new. I can't sit down with each of them one-on-one. I could sit down with a quarter of them, a tenth of them, and even that will take a lot of time. So people who make content, well, they just put out their foundation, their base level of what they have to offer, what they have to share. It's funny because I think about examples now, and I think about Tony Robbins, for instance, one man that I really look up to as just being so ahead in this industry, in the knowledge industry. I think about him within this example in that whenever I watch any of his free content, meaning any of his interviews or any of his YouTube videos, they say the same things again and again and again. But then you do something like attend one of his events, like one of his Unleash the Power Within events. I've now attended one and crewed 2 of them. And there, of course, because it's the same event, you'll hear the information again, but it's also much more in depth. I loved hearing all that information, and I saw how similar it was to his videos and his interviews because it was built upon his foundation, and there's new stuff. And then I went to his Date with Destiny event, and thinking I was going to get a lot of the same stuff, I was wrong, and I was surprised because he had so much more to offer in 6 days, more than I ever expected to get. And that's not where his events stop. He has at least 3 to 4 other events to take part in. And so I know that he has so much information to offer, but only to those who are looking for that information. Because some people only need to hear the YouTube video. So he won't go through the 6 or 7 events that he has and the countless hours of information that fills those events and puts all of it online because it's just too much. People won't be able to take it in. They'll think he's just spewing a little bit of everything, and the information doesn't stick. As such, repetition is the mother of all mastery. I think that's how the saying goes. I never remember if it's mother or father, but the point is, repetition and spaced repetition is crucial in becoming a master at any field, at anything that you do. If you do anything for long enough, with enough effort, you will become better than 99% of the people in the world very fast. I find that if you spend even just 1 year doing one thing, and you do that thing every single day, you obsess over it, you watch videos on it, you read books about it, you practice it, I promise you, you will be better than 99.9% of the people out there. Of course, there's going to be people who are better, those who have done it for 10 years, 20 years, those who make it their life's work, their life's craft. But sometimes it's enough to just be a part of that 0.1% of people where you can actually use what you know to make an impact. So I guess the moral of that story is it's okay to sound like a broken record. It's okay to repeat yourself, especially when you're meeting new people, especially when you have more to share. I'm sure you know the experience of talking to someone who overshares. I feel as though people overshare because they're tired of repeating the same thing to everybody they talk to. I know both sides very well. The feeling where, say you're at a party, and it's a party with extended friends and family, or there's just a lot of people and a lot of people know you there, but they haven't talked to you in a long time. So they each ask you the same question, or they each ask you about the same topic. And the first 2 or 3 people, well, you enjoy telling them what's going on. Then you hit the next 4, 5, 6, 7 people, and it's starting to get repetitive. You're starting to get tired of saying the same thing. And eventually you start looking for different pieces of information. You start looking for different details to share with people. When you share those pieces of information, at that point, you're probably already 10 conversations in, but you're just looking for something new to say, so it feels new to you. But to that person, chances are it sounds like you're oversharing. Chances are you shared way more than they expected to get because they just wanted the surface level information, the foundation, the base level that everybody else was getting. But you just went ahead and went deeper because you were continuing a conversation that they weren't a part of. I know both those experiences very well. The oversharing and feeling repetitive. Both of them can feel off in their own ways. It also doesn't help that I like to talk. So when someone asks me how I'm doing, I tell them. I find myself in those shoes pretty often, if you can't tell. But at the end of the day, there's no part of it that I regret. Whether I overshare or whether I feel like I'm bringing myself down by being repetitive, I know I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to do. If I make a mistake, I make a mistake. I get to learn, I get to grow, I get to have fun. Because at the end of the day, how can you really live if you don't let loose every once in a while? Life is dark, so embrace the light. I'm often very careful with the language that I use, but I can't deny that life isn't all sunshines and rainbows and daisies. I may only talk about the light stuff, but that's because that's where I want my focus to be. It's not me ignoring the dark. We all have our challenges. We all have our demons. We all have our past. I never want to make it sound like I don't appreciate what someone's been through or what someone is going through. Whenever I make light of a situation, it's often because I don't want to make a situation worse than it is. I don't want to make a situation seem better than it is. I just want to show the situation as it is. I think when things are going wrong or things are going poorly, it's really easy to catastrophize. It's really easy to think the worst. So when I make light of a dark situation, sometimes it's not even me making light of it. It's me just making sure it's not worse than it really is. I know that because if I wake up, that's a win. If I'm still breathing and my heart's still beating in the morning, that's a win. So no matter what's going on in my life, as long as I can try again, as long as I have another day, I'm winning. I'm already doing fantastic. Yeah, it could be hard. Yeah, I could mess up and it could be painful and I can either be cringing on the floor or punching the wall, whatever's going on, it doesn't matter so much as it's not the end of the world. I still have another chance. Last night I had this interesting moment, waking up in between dreams, and it was one of those groggy situations where I didn't quite know what was going on, but I knew that I was really disconnected from reality. I knew I was awake. I knew I was here, but every time I thought about something in reality, it felt fake. But when I thought about something from my dream, it felt real, or at least I can feel the emotions from the dream, but I couldn't quite emotionally feel any of my memories from reality. I bring that up because, while that was a heightened experience from going from asleep to waking and then back asleep, I think it's a pattern I've experienced and many people experience every day. It's this ability to not feel as much from the events of reality and experiencing even more emotion from events and experiences happening in our own minds. We create our experience of life. I've always loved the quote, "You don't experience life, you experience the life you focus on." There's always so much information coming in, you can't take it all in. You don't know what the objective truth is. None of us do. We're all just experiencing it through our own eyes, through this lens, in our own mind, based on all of our experiences. And sometimes what we experience and what we believe to be the truth just feels much more real, much more powerful than what's really happening. Admittedly, I do try to spice up this podcast a bit because I don't want to repeat myself every single day. I do want to change it up a bit, and that just comes with the territory of recording every single day. I just want to make sure I do it in a way that's still grounded in reality. I want to make sure that I'm not only grounded in reality, but I'm also letting loose a bit, enjoying this process, being aware of what's going on, appreciating it, and most importantly, learning. I say most importantly because learning leads to growth. And the more you grow, the more you can become. The more you can become, the more you get to give. The more you give, the more you can love. Now, that's not the only path to love, but it's one that I practice most often, I appreciate most often, and I want to share most often. I call this podcast Experiencing Love, but sometimes I feel like I'm talking about growing more or giving more. Experiencing giving, experiencing growing, growing love, giving love. I don't know, those have a different ring to it. Not quite what I'm looking for, but maybe one day. Growing love actually wouldn't be that bad. And that's a download for later. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. Not as long of an episode today. I think it's as long as it needs to be. It's perfect for today. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Remember to always fill up with the love, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I love you.